October is the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, commemorated under the theme Secure Our World. Welcome to the Girls Table podcast. I am your host, Bekezela Mguni. So in our podcast today, we want to talk about the importance of cybersecurity. I am joined by Karen Mukwasi, the director of PADA platform. Ngiyalibingelela and welcome, Karen. Umbuzo wami wokuqala ku-Karen is, can you briefly explain the Cybersecurity Act?
So the Act acknowledges the threat the online space poses to women. So it has provisions for women's protection. It criminalizes the sending of intimate images without the consent of the subject, what we refer to as revenge porn. So it's now a crime because of the Cyber and Data Protection Act. So as a woman, if a man shares your images without consent, you have the protection of the law on that, and you can go and report them. It also moves to protect children, and I think one of the most important aspects is the provision on child pornography. So I think it's important for all of us to understand that even if you have not developed that child pornography, even if you have not produced the pornography that depicts children, if you share it just by putting it on a group, you are guilty of a crime. Just by sending it to someone else, you're guilty of a crime. So child pornography is something that you should report if you are to receive it through any channel, because having it in your possession or sending it to someone else when you're not seeking recourse for the children who've been violated makes you party to the crime of the child pornography. So I think it's so important for us, because I know as women we have certain instances where you say, oh, look at what they're doing to these children, but what we're actually doing is sharing child pornography. So we should actually report when we receive this kind of pornography.
So much, Karen. I hope we realize what the Cyber and Data Protection Act protects us as women, protects us when people share our images ngaphandle kwemvumo yethu. We have the right to get them arrested. Ngiyabonga, Karen. Umbuzo wami olandelayo uthi wona, what is the importance of the cyber security awareness? Njengoba ngitshela ukuthi October is the Cyber Security Awareness Month.
The Cyber and Data Protection Act is the legislation that has an objective to increase cybersecurity in order to build confidence in the secure use of information and communication technology by the data controllers, the representatives, as well as the subjects. So I'm going to focus a bit more on the data subjects, because when I'm thinking about cybersecurity awareness, I'm thinking about women as data subjects. So what the Cyber and Data Protection Act does is to provide for the right of data subjects. So what are your rights as a data subject? You've got the right to information. So you have the right to understand why your data is being collected and what your data is going to be used for, and who is going to be receiving and processing your data. You've got the right to access your data that has been processed by a data controller. So whatever organization or government department collects your data, they have an obligation to allow you to access that data at any point that you need to access it, which means you've got the right to go and request to access your data from data controllers. You've got the right to object. So you've got the right to object to your data being collected. So you actually have the right to go maybe to a meeting that's being run by an organization, the Girls Table, the PADA platform, and to object to having your data collected by this organization, which means when you get the consensual form, the consent to your data being collected, you can say no. It's not a crime, and it's not something that should get you penalized. And like I said, you've got the right to information, so which means you can also ask these organizations that collect your data for rate forms and the like, why are they collecting your data and what are they going to use it for? You've got the right to modification of data. So if you come across your data at on a certain platform and it's wrong, you've got the right to go to the data controller at that particular the data handler, the controller at that particular time, to tell them to modify your data. Or even if your status changes, maybe your data are recorded as married and then your marital status changes, you've got the right to go and ask them to modify it. Maybe they've put you down as Mrs. MRS. You've got the right to say, I am more comfortable being referred to as Ms. MS. That's your right, because it's your data that they're handling. And you've got your right to deletion. So you have a right to, if a certain organization has your data on their in their database, you've got a right for them to tell them to delete your data, that at this particular point you do not want your data to be in possession of this organization. But remember, we have these rights as citizens, but we also have our obligations as citizens. So there are going to be government departments or certain incidents where a government department has the right, has the mandate to collect your data. So maybe you've been arrested by the police and they want your information. Unfortunately, because of the situation that you find yourself in, you have the obligation to provide this data. But like I'm saying, the right to information still remains, the right to access still remains, and the right to modification still remains. But because of certain circumstances that we citizens are obliged, the Act does not say you have the right to. No.
Thank you so much, Karen. I hope as a people will realize the importance of making sure that we are secure with social media, since we are now in the digital era, okuyukuthi izinto eziningi zenzakala online. So my last question is, has the Cybersecurity and Data Act been effective in addressing cyberbullying?
So I'm thinking that now, as in terms of the gaps, I feel that the Cybersecurity Act, in terms of protecting women, the Data and Cybersecurity Act, in terms of protecting women, has not been exhaustive. And on this one, I'd like to refer you to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Resolution 522, on the protection of women against digital violence in Africa. This resolution draws on the Maputo Protocol, which guarantees every woman the right to dignity and not to be exploited and degraded, and protection of every woman from all forms of violence, particularly sexual and verbal violence. And this is what we are seeing on the online space now, a lot of verbal violence against women. But are we protected as Zimbabwean women? I feel that there are gaps. And one of the gaps that I'd like to point out is the lack of data. And the resolution recommends that states should undertake research on digital violence against women. This research should include studies and the adjustment of crime statistics on digital violence against women to identify legislative and non-legislative needs. Do we have that right now? As a women's rights activist, I can tell you that when I need statistics, the current statistics on crimes against women on the digital space, I do not have access to that. We do not have the gender disaggregated data. And so our state, Zimbabwe, would take up that recommendation to actually invest in this kind of research. And then also I feel that even our state has not undertaken awareness raising programs to target the boys and the men, and to educate the women as well within the general context of gender-based violence. How does technology play a role? I feel that the rights of women in terms of that kind of violence has not been addressed in terms of awareness, because women do not know. They don't even understand the Data and Cyber Protection Act to begin with. They don't even understand that one piece of legislation. So if Zimbabwe could undertake that part of that resolution, which looks at awareness building. Then also the issue of digital literacy. I don't, when we talk about digital literacy, it also provides to the understanding of the digital environment and to safer digital citizenship. And I feel that we are still at a position where too many women do not have the technical fluency in the digital space. So we need more policies that allow for digital inclusion before we can even start talking about cybersecurity for women. Are the women online, and when they are online, do they have the sufficient technical fluency to be able to stay safe? And do they have the technical fluency to be responsible users? Because women are not only victims, sometimes we are perpetrators, and this is sometimes because we do not have adequate knowledge. And also law enforcement in Zimbabwe, have they been sufficiently trained? There remains a gap there. There remains a gap in terms of the continuous training of legal practitioners, the continuous training of the law enforcement officers, and then even the educators themselves. I feel that we have a law, yes, but where's the training? And then also, is law enforcement cooperating with the service providers? Are the service providers cooperating with law enforcement in terms of the fundamental rights and freedoms of people in terms of the digital environment? I feel also that there's a gap there. And so if we are to recommend as women rights activists that our state takes a closer look at this resolution, most of the issues that I have referred to are really covered well by this resolution 522. So I think it's important for us to educate women on this resolution so that they can also use it as an advocacy tool, because an act is one thing, but the implementation of the law and the understanding of the implementers and also the subjects of that law.
Thank you so much, Balaleli, for listening to this podcast until the end. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages and also like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Girls Table. Until next time, thank you so much, Karen, for making time to educate us about cyber security awareness. Karen uthe ignorance is never an excuse. Kumele sibekwazi ama threats and risks that are there for using the internet. Since it's a digital era, we should make sure that we are safe on the internet. And again, whatever you write on the internet, make sure the internet doesn't forget. So let's be safe on the internet. Until next time, ngiyabonga kakhulu.